Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, so Vav is like... Vav is... It looks like an upside down golf club. A little bit. Where the head of the club is at the top. Makes a V sound. Its meaning symbol is an arm. So, the fuck does an arm do? Arm stretches, it reaches out for things. I don't want to say it grabs things, because it's technically the hand that does, but it can move things around. You can use the arm, fucking, wiggle with it, you can dance with it. But then, if we expand on what an arm is, it's like a branch. Long arm of the law. Arms of an octopus. Arms of a ventriloquist that pop into my mind. You think God as the ventriloquist, and me as the dummy. Where you going, dummy? Good question. But just to give you some perspective, some range. So in a sense, another concept, L, what is that? What kind of picture does that paint? For me, kind of like going with the flow. I don't surf, but surfing is coming to mind. Kind of just being in a position where you just go with the momentum of things. And trust that the momentum that's guiding you along, the current that you're, go with the flow, right? Being in the flow state, but trusting that flow, that current that you find yourself paddling out into, that current that catches you, is powered by God or by a higher force, a higher power. It doesn't have to be a deity. It could be just a force of nature that it precludes your mind, precludes your mortal mind. I don't know how the fuck it works. I don't know why the fuck it works. All I know is that the motherfucker works. So I'm gonna just go with the flow. It's a concept that can be acted out, that can be expressed in nearly an infinite number of ways. Like that car right there. There's a good example of L. Or at least LF. The idea behind LF. There's a lot of gears and cogs and things fucking happening, pistons pumping and gas and combustion. But what's the end result? The end result's a spark that propels the car forward. So yeah, you could say, like, in a sense, God is the inspiration, the oomph that the power of God, the voice of God, the breath of God represents. It's the inspiration for the combustion engine. Combustion engine works when two opposing forces come together and create a spark. The fuck's this guy talking about? Am I explaining thermodynamics? Feels like it. There's a voice in my head that just went, holy shit, is this dude fucking using thermodynamics to explain God? I guess so, if I was just saying thermodynamic stuff. There's like basic metaphysical principles coming together. You're saying there's a correlation between the two? Yeah. Yeah, you can marry both logic and illogical concepts. We call it the middle path of God. So the truth lies in the middle. It's not, there's three sides of the story. There's his story, there's her story, and then there's the story in the middle. No, it's exactly like that. It's like, take the extremes of pure emotion and pure logic, and then smash them together. It's like reptiles and mammals making a love child. Humans. But finding a middle ground between the two, balancing out the two concepts. Reptiles are like cold-blooded. They don't give a fuck. They're just you can say that they're destructive forces. And to a degree, they fucking feed on fear. They love fear. That's why they always go for the weak ones. And the weak ones taste the best. The weak ones are the most afraid. They're the easiest to catch. Not that reptiles are lazy. Sometimes you gotta work with what you got. If you got little ass legs and a big crocodile head, I mean, you can only do so much. I ain't saying that crocodiles can't fuck shit up, because they absolutely positively can. If you look at the god Sebek, the Egyptian god Sebek Ra. Wait a second, I thought his name was Amen Ra. He wasn't the only Ra. Ra is... It's, how do you put it? Jesus. Ra is the Son of God at his most potent strength. Horus, the son of Osiris and Isis, the sun god, right? The big guy in the sky. But when is he at his peak performance? At noon. Not necessarily 12 o'clock noon, but at high noon during the course of a day. Is there a correlation between Israel? Kind of sounds... Yeah, well, funny you say that. Yeah, you can look at it that way. Is for Isis, the mother goddess. El, Osiris. Different words, same idea. And then Ra, who is the son, child. Horus was kind of like you think of the idea of Jesus, right? And the Son of God. The most purest potential form of God, the Spirit, lives within that physical vessel. Horus, Ra. Well, no, Horus, Ra. Depends on how you want to look at it. He rides in what's called a solar vessel. And in the solar vessel, he's surrounded by this giant ass fucking serpent, cobra. The purpose of the serpent is to protect the vessel from the evil serpent, who represents chaos and disorder and destruction. It's a mindset. So Ra is a mindset. You gotta also keep in mind that back then, these were not humans as we know them today. They saw things a lot differently than we do now. Which, in one or two respects, is probably a reason why they don't exist anymore, because I think like maybe power got to their heads, corrupted them, brought on a big ass war, wiped them all out, except for one. And in some schools of thought, the entity known as God isn't even God. It's actually an imposter. Believes it's God. It's easier to say that it's the Old Testament God. You say it's the Jew God, then you got an anti-Semitic issue, but schools of thought like Gnosticism, which are kind of considered anti-Semitic to one degree or another, because of the fact that it views God, Hashem, as an evil entity that is more of a slave master than a benevolent entity. But reading through the Torah, studying the Torah, I don't even see where the hell the benevolent thing goes. Well, I mean, I do. I mean, there is benevolence to him. But one of those quid pro quo things, like, hey, listen, I got you out of Egypt. We're gonna do things my way. If you want to follow. Well, yeah, but also keep in mind back then, they were all related. The 12 tribes were made up of the founders of each of the 12 tribes were one of the 12 sons of Jacob, who was also known as Israel. Well, he was renamed Israel by God. I shall call you Israel. So basically, look for the 12 tribes of Israel, it's 12 sons of Jacob. Same difference. Different ways to say the same thing. But that was part of what was going on in the Book of Numbers. I was saying in that other video was that the Book of Numbers is God breaking down to Moses and his brother Aaron, who was his high priest, once they were done documenting the law, it was now a matter of, okay, now what? Alright, so now what we have to do is we gotta get our asses up because we got shit we gotta go do. We gotta go find our next stop, which I believe was Canaan. Could be wrong. I didn't get that far yet. Why did they follow him? Well, they follow him because he did the impossible. He was just a vessel, Moses. He didn't take credit for anything he did because it wasn't him doing it, per se. He was doing it, but he was just carrying out the higher will. Think of it, this might be an easier way of piecing it together. think of it like following intuition, getting a gut feeling. Are you saying that the Jewish nation is based on gut feelings? In a sense, yes. In a sense, no. Depends on how you want to look at it. Do you believe in intuition? And if you believe in intuition, where do you think intuition comes from? Is it a natural thing? Because I know that in terms of my experience, and even the experience that I've heard other people kind of demonstrate, is that sometimes intuition doesn't make sense whatsoever. It's like, what the fuck? How the fuck did that happen? I don't get it. Well, there's a trick to it, because when you look at it at the time that it's happening, no, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense until you take a break and go, what the fuck? How the fuck did that happen? And during that process, kind of recognizing that, all right, maybe there's maybe there's a little bit more than what I thought. Maybe I don't know as much as I thought I did. Maybe I need to start listening to this voice in my head a little bit more. So yeah, are you saying that people who say that they heard the voice of God were really hearing the voice of God? They're hearing a voice of God, maybe not the voice of God. I mean, it's really, I don't want to put it. It's kind of like what I was saying before. There's lots of parts to it. Not all of them. Not all of them are saying literally what they're saying. I mean, I'm speaking from my own experience. But also at the same time, this is based on my conjecture, based on talking with and getting to know people who experience things. When you take the time to get to know people, which is what makes me a good manager, by the way. When you take the time to get to know people, and literally, get to know what makes them tick, who they are, their desires, their wants, what they like, what they don't like. Sometimes testing boundaries gives you a mental profile. God works in a similar way. There's multiple components that go into making up God. I don't mean making up as in making up the fairy tale, but I mean the components that make up the divine engine that is. But where a lot of those answers come from is you gotta marry ideas, you gotta marry concepts, and it's not always rational. Sometimes it's incredibly irrational, but the real magic comes from, and I'm talking literally and figuratively, the magic of the experience comes from rationalizing the irrational, if one is capable of doing so. Because based on my experience, there are some irrational ideas and concepts that can fuck your brain. And make you look like a fucking raving lunatic. to your friends and family, coworkers, but the same token, that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes a little bit crazy is not bad. It helps if you stop calling it crazy. I'm gonna put it like that. You look at it more like a different way of observing the world in an unconventional manner. Yeah, we'll get to that. That's the next step. Being comfortable talking to women. But it probably helps if you're also not walking down a fucking dark bike path at 9:30 at night. At least I think so. I like legs. I'm not against objectifying. Human chemistry is based off of mathematics. Certain equations work, some equations not so much. Not that any equation is better than another, but some equations just have a way of rolling off the tongue a little bit more fluently than, say, chewing on broken glass. Oh, incredibly interesting way of viewing things. Makes me almost not want to kill you. What are you gonna do? This is a religion to me. You're Jewish? Israelite. From a tribe. I don't know which one, but I know a tribe. Genetics, believe it or not, people, genetics play a role in who we are and how we think, and our desires, our interests, our innate interests in certain subjects, certain areas of study that, I don't just mean academically, but I mean just in general. I love playing video games because I love the concept behind them. I love studying astrology because I'm fascinated by the mechanics that are operating under the hood. Same thing with religions and certain ideologies. You know what I love? Communist Manifesto. I fucking love it. It's so basic, it's so simple, and it's right to the fucking point. There's not really much room for, how do you say it? Not really much room for misinterpretation. Yeah, about that. No, there's tons of room for misinterpretation. Don't get me wrong there. But at its most simplistic, I learned in elementary school, long time ago. Looks good on paper. Sounds good. Sounds really good. Which it does. Actually, when you just look at the Communist Manifesto as just its own singular entity, I didn't read Capital, Das Capital, not yet. But when you just look at the framework being established within the Communist Manifesto, it's a fairly basic system. It's about representation of the working class. People have to work in order to keep society functioning, but who's representing them from the overreaching power of the bourgeoisie? You feel? Kind of like a union. It's a union. There is no family, there is no ownership. It's just at its pure essence, it's just blue collar corporate. That's how I kind of see it. And yeah, no, I was never a big fan of mobs, of unions. So I used to see them as mobs, and thankfully, I guess you could say that they are, if the fucking higher ups get corrupted enough. But there is a practical value to it if it's got the right people in charge. So the issue is, of course, and it always comes down to people. You have to have somebody running the organization that understands it from both sides of the fence. You need somebody who's been a boot on the ground, plus has been a fucking general. Let me take that back. It helps if that person in charge has had experience both as a trooper, a grunt, as well as a grand admiral. Or even, to some degree, actually, let me take that back. It helps if the individual in question has enough learned experience being both the emperor and the emperor's janitor. Is that a good analogy? Playing both roles at once. Because, as I'm sure I'm not the only person who has noticed, but sometimes when it comes to corporations and working in corporate, at least I'm talking from my own experiences, working both sides of the fence, there is it's easy for the worker to not fully understand and grasp and even appreciate what goes on behind the scenes to ensure that work continues flowing. Because you throw a fucking monkey wrench into the whole system, you can fuck things up really bad. One thing goes out, another thing goes out, and that's kind of why it's good to pre-think these things, to prepare yourself and go, okay, well, what if this happens? Do we have a fail-safe? Like, for instance, I've been going through this thing with Hugo Boss, and I'm done beating them up. I'm done all that. I love Hugo Boss. I honestly do. I was a shareholder. And mind, I had fucking 25 shares at one point. That was my pride. I would buy them for myself anytime I felt that I was doing a good job. It was a mind hack that I learned from this guy that was on Tom Bilyeu's YouTube show, Impact Theory. And the early stages of the man's entrepreneurial career, when he was still working for other people, he had this idea to literally buy shares of the companies that he worked with, of the products that he used, because it put him in this mind space that this is mine. I have to take this seriously. And so that's what he did. And I love the idea. I love the idea so much that I emulated it in my own way. So I'm not one for getting rich quick off somebody else's back. I don't like the idea of it. I think it's a little bit lazy for me. I'm talking about for me. There's people who fucking run game on stocks, like in impressive ways. Like I love the idea of how people can, what do you do? I'm a day trader. The fuck? How the fuck do you do that? Following patterns, following the cycles. Keep an eye on things. But there's a lot of work involved in that. That's like, it's probably worth knowing, now that I'm thinking about it. Everything's worth knowing, especially if you have no real interest in it. Like, so I practice fractional trading, not to get rich. It's a mind hack. It's to put me in that mindset. Now, mind you, I'm also coming from a different perspective in the sense that I own a company. I have an entity. So when I start investing my money into stock options, what I'm essentially doing is now expanding my portfolio, right? My portfolio by owning a piece of these companies. So I own a share of Hugo stock, right? Holy shit, that's not the first time that happened. That fucking flew on my face. But I own a piece, I think in that exact same spot too. I own a piece of Hugo Boss. Now we had a in-company program called SHIP. SHIP was, I wish I could have taken credit for this, because you know what's fucked up is that like months, literally like 2 months after I had made a suggestion to the regional manager in this really long drawn out email, the company actually came out with this program called SHIP. I don't know if it was already something that was in the workings, if it was just a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences, but it's also very possible that I had the idea at the exact same time that they were implementing it. So we're trying to figure out how to implement it. Now, I don't think they did a very good job at it. I don't think they did a good job at it at all, because they were coming at it from a different mindset. Like Hugo Boss stock, you ain't gonna get rich on that. It's fucking like $13 a share, right? But if you are an employee, and especially if you're an employee that's also a business owner, because I wasn't the only person who was working at Hugo Boss part-time that had their own business, you see? That's not entirely uncommon. It's not as, it's not as prevalent as you would imagine, but something I had proposed, and I still think that this is something that should be considered when hiring employees, is to find the entrepreneurial-minded people. Start hiring entrepreneurial people. Because essentially, like, when you run a store, right? And I learned this because I've worked in several different stores, not just one. I worked in 1, 2, 3, 4. And in each store is run differently. I worked in 3 outlets and in 1 full price store, premium store is what they're called. That's where you can get all the expensive shit. That's where you get the new shit. The outlets is where you get the old shit. And sometimes outlet exclusive stuff. But the whole thing. But working with the teams that I've worked with, even building my own team, because I had the privilege of actually building a team at one of the stores that I was working at. It was one of my crowning achievements of that job. I fucking loved it. I mean, granted, there was shit I fucking hated. Of course. There was times where I felt that the word exploitation and taking advantage was absolutely, necessary, required, absolutely justified. But at the same time, there was a part of me that went, you know what? They're exploiting me as much as I'm exploiting them. They're taking advantage of me the way that I'm taking advantage of them. No one's taking advantage of anyone any more than the other one is. Now, mind you, how was I exploiting them? I was exploiting the fact that I knew that they were exploiting me. And when I say exploiting, I know that exploitation can have, what do you say? I think there's like a definition that exploitation is technically not paying employees. And mind you, we had our issues with payment, but shit happens. Shit happens. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your perspective, yeah, there's bugs in the system. I'm actually proud of the fact that I got to spend as much time with that company, working with them as closely as I was on the storefront level, because it gave me an opportunity to see a lot of the bugs. Or at least, how would I say it? What I considered bugs. What I considered to be, alright, this might not be the best business practice. But again, at the same time, you have one regional manager, and it's just like, I guarantee you it's just like this in every other fucking retail place, because nobody wants to work retail. Why did you want to work retail? Because I wanted to get into this company for a long time, because I wanted a regional manager position originally. And the reason that I even had gotten into it in the first place was because a friend of mine was in a tough situation and I wanted to help her out. So I had offered to work seasonal at her store. But as the fates would have it, a friend of a family member took a chance to offer me an opportunity at his store. It wasn't his store yet technically, but it was his store. So that was kind of basically me getting my foot in the door. Now, over the time that I was there was a lot of raw opportunities that, not that people were neglecting, but more opportunities that people just didn't want to be a part of. It was almost as if, because nobody holds a gun to anybody's head. That's very important. Very, very important. Nobody holds a gun. The word no is allowed to be used. But, because there is a but, you need to be able to back that no up. And granted, I suppose that's business. In some areas of life, I'm used to it. That's not my first rodeo working at a company that has more than one person at it. Sometimes no is not the best decision for your career. Because sometimes no means, all right, then you get the fuck out of here and I'll find somebody else who can do it. And then now it's on you to figure out how to get that shit done. And yeah, that's difficult. That's a lot of stress. But I like stress. I get off on stress. I mean, I don't like it while I'm going through it. I fucking hate it. But what I like about stress is what comes out of it. Working with Hugo Boss is probably one of the most stressful jobs that I ever had. But at the same time, it was the first job I've ever had where I allowed myself to express that stress rather than bottle it up. And by the end of my tenure with the company, my new philosophy was, I'm getting a lot of stress. I'm taking on a lot of stress. I'm taking on a lot of stress that, for all intents and purposes, is not my stress to be taking on. And I understand that I'm not the center of everybody's universe, but luckily or no, I have to be the one to pat myself on the back, but also keep myself going. Because I'm not one to just walk off a fucking job. Trust me. There was many times where that thought, walk off the fucking job, just go home, fuck this shit. This is not fucking worth it. But I bit my tongue. Not that I bit my tongue always, but I stood my ground and went, come on, pussy. All you gotta do is just make it this fucking Sunday. Make it to the fucking new moon without getting fired and without quitting, and you're straight. And I managed that for almost 5 months. Not consecutive. 4.5 months, and then another window of 2 weeks. But then also 10 months before that. I don't want to say I didn't need the job. Well, you know what? Let me take that back. Because the lesson that I've learned with God is if I didn't need to be there, then I wouldn't have been there. Because it was an educational experience as well. Notice how I said that was a hobby. Something I learned from the Bible is one cannot serve two different masters at the same time. You got to make a choice, bud. Sorry. You're either all in or you're not. And I'm not at all. But I do give a shit about my hobbies. I treat my hobbies like they're my own. So when I bought the Hugo Boss stock, and I didn't buy it right away. I wanted to, but it took me about 6 months before I learned about fractional trading and then attempted to do fractional trading with Hugo Boss, but because it's an overseas company, I couldn't do it. I was using Robinhood. Don't use that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm not trying to get rich, but I'm not trying to get rich off Robinhood. So what I did was I was buying actual full shares, and they're fucking $14. So anytime that I felt, once I bought the first one, it kind of gave me a boost of pride in the work that I was doing, because though, yeah, I can be a pain in the ass, I can be a ball buster, I can push people to their fucking limits, but that's me. That's how I do. I can't help it. It's just, sometimes I don't even notice I'm doing it until it's already done, and I'm like, oh fuck, hope I didn't hurt his feelings. You know what I mean? But at the same time, so is business. We have to have that cold, you have to balance out the warm-bloodedness with the cold-bloodedness. Sometimes we have to be the predator, sometimes we have to be the prey. And I've been allowing myself to be the prey for so long that finally the predator in me just fucking came lashing out. And I'm not saying that it didn't work out. I can't guarantee that the company's ever going to want to work with me again. I can't guarantee that they won't. I mean, that'd be really cool too. I'd like to be in a different position though. Not really into the sales part. Although I do like interacting with people, I don't necessarily enjoy customer service. I don't like getting myself stressed out over shit that I really don't need to be getting myself stressed out over. Especially like returns. I fucking hate returns. Because it's a battle of wills. And not that I quickly give up, but once I find myself in a heated debate with a customer, my logical side comes in and goes, why do you give a shit? Who gives a shit? Yeah, it's on the receipt. Yeah, it's on that little placard right there, but the print is so fucking small. Try making it a habit and getting everybody else into the habit of telling the customer before they purchase that it's no cash returns, store credit, and exchange only. You have to, because if you don't, you're risking the sale, because there are people, believe it or not, there are people who will not purchase based on that criteria alone. So sometimes you gotta leave some room, you gotta leave some wiggle room. Sometimes you gotta work fucking finagle deals with people. Which is, I mean, it's a sales job. I mean, it's more than just standing around and buttering up people's ass. I mean, there is that aspect to it. I've seen it done where people, well, one, where what happened? How do you say it? You get people who think they come in and they fucking own the place and that they can talk to anybody the way that they want. There are people like that, but not everybody's looking to make friends. Some people just want to, oh man, I'm just here for a suit. I don't need your fucking life story. I don't need to tell you mine. But at the same time, people do like to talk. Get to know people. Sometimes get into fucking interests. I had a thing with my store down in Atlantic City. I had a thing with all the gypsies. All the gypsy ladies that would come in. Why? Because they come from a magic bloodline. They understand magic. And you can sense it on each other. When we get into the realm of mysticism and mystical magic, you can kind of tell. You kind of get a feel off people. Trust your intuition. Well, like I said, some people are cool, some people aren't cool. Some people come in not cool, but then they leave cool as fuck. Some people come in cool and then they leave not cool as fuck. Some people fucking come in and you're like, God damn, I wish that person would come in every single fucking day. And there's a lot of personalities, but the shitty part is when the downtime. Especially when you work in a store. Especially when there's a lot of shit to do. Like, because those stores, it's not like, it's like a fucking art project. You gotta, yeah, there's corporate standards, but at the same time, there's a little bit of wiggle room to finagle things, because sometimes what's on the corporate blueprint isn't exactly in your store, so you have to, so merchandising is a thing. Not one of my strong suits. I had some good teachers, and I wasn't afraid to how you say it, to explore potential. Explore by potential. You don't learn something unless you do it. But then when you got people fucking coming in, you got the fucking shirts folded up all nice, you got people coming in, fucking throwing things around, literally throwing things around. It get fucking stressful. Like, motherfucker, I just worked. You have no idea how much time I just put into folding them motherfucking shirts. And you just toppled the entire motherfucking tower. You took every single one out of the fold. I gotta refold every single fucking one. Holy shit. Don't touch nothing. Just don't touch. Don't touch. Does it get like that? Do you ever have to tell someone not to touch it? Like, no. I've seen it done. Don't touch that. We got other shirts over here. You try one of those on, even though it's not the same shirt. It doesn't get fucking chaotic with the how do you say it? Inventory. I worked in this one store in Lancaster. Oh my god. That store was fucking a nightmare. The whole back stock room was a fucking... Looked like the fucking Tasmanian devil went through it. It took me 4 months to get it into functioning order. But everything worked out perfectly fine. I mean, things work out in my favor. I have a way of seeing things without seeing them. I mean, it also helped that I was talking to my Uncle Hugo every morning. Uncle Hugo, what do you want me to do today? Because at the store, I wasn't planning on staying at the store. I was just going there to help. It was a 2-week mission that turned into a 4.5-month excursion. I mean, I had a whole and my own work I was trying to do. But at the same time, going back to why not just walk off, I realized that my work there was intertwined with my work, with my own work. Because I'm not exactly trying to start my own clothing line. I don't have resources for that. I'm not a clothing designer, but there are other protocols and organizational skill trees, hierarchies, mindsets that come along with the work that you have to get familiarized with, but at the same time be able to emulate as well. Because sometimes, even if you're just a seasonal key holder, a seasonal sales employee, you need to be able to embody the mindset, the persona, the characteristics of, say, a regional manager, or even the manager. I was in this Lancaster store for 4.5 months. I was technically just a seasonal key holder, but I was the guy. I was the only person who had a key. So when it came to who's the manager on duty, it's Derek. And in some cases, Mr. Toxic. Mind you, I wasn't permanent. I got to run things however I wanted. They needed to be run. They needed to be ran. So I didn't have anyone plop a training manual on my lap. I had to use my 10 months experience as a part-time sales associate to get put into a managerial position. And although my store didn't run as proficiently as corporate would have liked, it didn't close down. Yeah, but did you die? Nope. Neither did the store. There was a fucking trade wreck when I got there, but got to work with a lot of really cool people with a lot of experience, not just in the retail industry, but in other industries as well, that brought exactly what we needed to the table. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying about getting to know people, not just seeing them as a number or a human commodity, but actually putting a value on the face. I'm so high, by the way. I don't know how much longer this is going for. I'm gonna run it out though. The recording. But it also gave me an arena to exercise my powers in witchcraft. So I was using supernatural forces. I don't want to say using them to my advantage, but working with them, working with forces of nature that aren't traditionally in corporate training that I'm aware of. In a sense, I mean, when you get into the fashion industry, you're basically working with glamour magic. One of the principles, philosophies of the company, selling points, really, is that be Be your own boss. Be what you see on the inside. The best way to do that, some fine ass clothing on your ass. They make some good stuff. I'm wearing Hugo Boss. You can't see. Well, I'm wearing Hugo Boss undies. I got my Hugo Boss sneaks on. One of the perks is 50 to 60% off purchases. Well, 50% off outlets and 60% off retail. Premium. But then also, I don't know if they still do it. I don't know if it's an always thing, but it's been there for 2 years I was there. Well, at least for the 2 cycles I was there. But there's an employee appreciation the weekend before Thanksgiving. You get an additional 10%. So it's 60% off in the outlets, 70% off in the premium stores. It's a good fucking deal. Got these like $250 boots for fucking like $60 or $90, something like that. I don't know the calculation off the top of my head. It's been a while. They're nice ass boots. Only wore them once. Heavy as fuck. But they also need to be broken in a little bit, I think. Shirts. Loves me. Fucking good Hugo Boss shirt. Well, tees. The undershirts. Conveniently priced as well, especially with an employee discount. 50% off those bad boys. I think it's only 2 that comes in a pack. 2 or 3. I think I could stretch to them. And they don't have that fucking shoulder problem that some of the other Teslers and Tesla shirt. These fucking, the way they stitch the shoulder looks like you got fucking horns. And the shoes, the sneakers aren't always fucking comfortable. Sometimes the sneakers, I got a fucking bunion. I don't know what the hell it is. Oh, my pinky toe on my left foot. Being in these shoes for 8 hours a day, they don't hurt anymore. I don't know if it was just from the fact of fucking miserable in the store or what, but there's just a something. There's a something in the shoes that's just like, fuck. And it hurts. There was days I'd be walking back to my hotel. It was a 5-minute walk, but I'd be fucking limping. Gotta get them shits off my dogs, bro. Let my motherfucking feet breathe. But I think these have kind of stretched out. I got another pair of Hugo Boss sneakers at home. Bright ass red. They were only really good for. I only tried them out once or twice with my black pants. But I don't mind dressing up for work. Time to time. Thing is, you gotta get everything tailored, though. Gotta get everything tailored, and that's a game I'm still new at. So some of my pants aren't all fucking cut the same. Some are a little bit baggy, too long. Don't got enough stretch in them. That's the biggest pain in the ass. I can't find all the fucking pants. They're like suit pants, so there's no fucking stretch. I got these express jeans. I got these express pants that they're perfect. Just the right amount of stretch. Slacks. Slacks? Is that what you would say? God. What's the biggest thing I would change? I'd put me in charge. I would put me in charge of everything. Yeah, so I can fuck it up. See, the reason I wanted to be a regional manager, like way back, there was a regional manager that quit, and I wanted that job really bad, and I wanted to put my resume in, but I didn't think I had the experience. Well, I knew I didn't have the experience, not that I don't have managerial experience. I was a fucking operations manager at a commercial vehicle wrap shop. But the fuck business do you have trying to be a manager at a retail store? A regional manager for a retail store. It's people management, people skills. Man. Not to mention that having no experience in the retail industry put me in a prime position because my judgment isn't clouded by I don't want to say procedures and protocols, but I have a little more wiggle room for out-of-the-box thinking because I'm coming from a completely different industry. So having that alien experience kind of puts me in a place where I can see things a little bit differently. Yeah, people management. See, my way of managing people, and this is how I did it in all the stores, is I ain't gonna tell you to work. Even when people saw me as a manager, right? No man, I ain't your manager. I mean, I know I'm the manager on duty. I mean, there are some things that you really do have to listen to, but I'm not gonna make you do anything. I'm gonna ask you. I hate telling people what to do. I hate fucking telling people what to do. I don't like telling people what to do because I don't like being told what to do. And the times I have had to tell people what to do, there's always a fucking conflict. But at the same time, it depends on who you're working with. Not everyone's as capable. You gotta find people's strengths. You're good with just fucking standing behind the register because you can't move too much? Alright, just stay back there, and as people come, boom, you take it. You take all the commission. You're not so good at folding? But you can do that. Alright, well, you're getting paid for doing that. I'm not, so that's your job. I mean, it was fun. I'm not gonna lie, I did not have a good time, but gotta take the good with the bad. Of course you do. That's the point. And sometimes I think, you know what, this is coming to my mind now. Sometimes I feel like there wasn't enough of a challenge. Even though I know that there was. It wasn't that there was no fucking challenges. There was fucking challenges, alright. People challenges, fucking deadline challenges. And the fact that I'm running a store, but I was never actually formally trained to run a store, kind of put me in a, well, I don't want to say I wasn't. I learned basic stuff, which at least made me a commodity in the sense that I knew things that people didn't. Operations, which is really the most important thing, is the nuts and bolts that go into the operation of the store. And again, wasn't fully trained on everything, but I mean, I didn't always get everything right. Sometimes I fucking piss people off, but this is the way. I don't know if I pissed anybody off, but definitely ruffled feathers, which I think is kind of required. Standard operating procedure sometimes needs to be shaken up a little bit. So my other thing is, like, I can't live at a store. And when you get into a managerial position, you basically have to live there. That's your responsibility. You are the one. And mind you, functioning stores have at least a manager or assistant manager, you know, just like any other place. But when the situation I was in was, there was nobody else. It was just me. there was other people, and I tried to run it as democratically as possible, but at the end of the day, when you got people who are just there for a paycheck, you can't blame them because they don't want to go above and beyond, especially when their paycheck is or when people get smoke blown up their ass, which happens a lot. Especially when people feel like they're being taken advantage of, when they feel like their weaknesses are being taken advantage of, which happens. But also gotta understand that in the sense of the chain of command, everyone's got somebody on their ass. You gotta understand that. I got someone on my ass. He's got someone on his ass. He's got someone on his ass. But an idea that I had loved it, was this concept of decentralized management. It's an idea I got from decentralized currency, crypto, and blockchain. In the sense that you just take all that responsibility off of one person. Everybody has equal responsibility, equal capabilities to do the things. But, I mean, granted, it's not needed. Except for in, like, oh shit, we're fucked situations, which come up. I mean, sometimes you gotta think on the fly. Which is good, which is why, I mean, I had a good mentor who did his best to keep me sane, but, like, he didn't, I don't think, I mean, mind you, I never really dug into his personal business, but I don't think he really had too much of an outlet for himself. I always said to him, how the hell do you always stay so calm? I don't understand that. Like, I lose my shit. I have to lose my shit. Like, I would go for walks after my shift and just fucking lose it walking down the highway. I don't know if you've seen any of the videos of me fucking losing my shit on here. Like, that's like a backstage pass. It gets fucking even get gnarlier. Oh, it's my birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday. Thanks. Thank you, Hashem. Thank you for the joint. After I went to the bank this morning, I took a route home that I don't normally take. Oh no, I went for a walk. I was saying that before because I was kind of ruminating over the mysteries of the Book of Numbers, and I took a path that I don't normally take, but I do from time to time. But anyway, I was walking. I found a joint on the ground. Well, it's more like a roach. It's probably about it. This is enough to get the job done. Birthday. Thank you. I have a rule that no matter how it comes to me, if it comes to me, if we find each other, it's open season. Not everybody would agree with that point of view, but a sign from God is a sign from God. A sign from God. And I am very much pro-advocate for the use of plant medicines. Plant medicines, how do you define plant medicine? Oh, thanks for asking. Plant medicine, any kind of medicine that involves using a plant to alter one's state of consciousness. Coffee's a great example. Coffee's like my new favorite. Cigarettes. Believe it or not, cigarettes are plant medicine. They're cancer stick. Nah. They cure cancer. If used properly. Oh yeah, because all of the sources of cancer, stress, fear, anxiety, cigarettes help you breathe. Breathe, hold it, exhale. Breathe in, centered. Cigarettes are a good, how do I say it? Like training wheels. Help you release the tension. Marijuana, that's an obvious one. Ayahuasca's a really good one. I had ayahuasca infused chocolates. Psilocybin and ayahuasca infused chocolates. That was an experience. That was 100% an experience. 4 doses over the course of 3 days. Or 4 days. Maybe it was 3 doses over 3 days. But that will help you dig into the really dark, gunky, grimy spots. If you're looking to get into those parts of yourself. I don't know if it's more than just a spiritual experience, but the spiritual value of working with plant medicine is, even alcohol, by the way. Alcohol is plant medicine. Poison for your liver. Just like cigarettes cause cancer, it's training wheels. Alcohol opens the floodgates for emotions. And yeah, sometimes we take it too far. Sometimes we over-express. But if you can work through the shame of it, because a lot of the times that's what happens. We drink, we say shit that we're ashamed of, and then it's all this regret. But that in itself is the medicine, because, well, what's making you feel so bad? Why do you feel so bad about that? You mad because you express yourself in a fucking over-the-top way? Alright, shit happens. Yeah, but look what came out of it. You I say it. You had a release. You had an emotional and mental release. It has to go somewhere. You can't keep that shit bottled up. And yeah, you know, some people don't like it. I know. I get it. How would you like it if I turned this shit around on you? I wouldn't like it at all. I don't think, or maybe I would. Maybe I'd fucking love it. Maybe that's because I went into it looking for a fight. And now I kind of feel like, oh, thank God that's done. Unless they want to keep it going. And if they want to keep it going, then I trust that God will see to it that I have the vigor and energy to maintain stamina. Spiritual stamina is just as important as physical stamina. Yoga is a very good practice. I have developed my own form of yoga. Not so much about stretching per se, more about holding on or building tension. Building tension up to, like, you're talking about tantric shit. In a sense, yeah. I don't know how to translate that into sexual stuff, but I also haven't had sex in like 5 years, 6 years. I like to believe that's possible. Not just the sex part, but that the endurance training, mental emotional, spiritual, and even physical, emotional training. Endurance training will pay off in that category if the opportunity presents itself. But we'll see. Now what? Well, now I'm going to go home. I'm going to start writing about the Book of Numbers, because there are still some points of interest that I'd like to explore a little further, specifically the relationship between the stations of the 12 tribes in relation to the tent of meeting, tabernacle, and the ark, how everything was set up in the camp. Because there was a structure, there was an organizational structure once we had a head count, once we had a solid head count of each tribe and everybody organized by tribe. Tribes were split up into 4 groups of 3 and stationed at each of the cardinal directional points in relation to the tent of meeting. The tent of meeting is where meetings would happen. Not saying that's where we would hold sermon, but that's where Moses would teach the law. There was a way of doing it. It doesn't say this in the Torah itself, but the gentleman, the rabbi who I was learning the Talmud from on YouTube. Learning Talmud from YouTube rabbis? Yeah. Where else do you go? Talmud, like I was saying in the other video, Talmud is Jewish law. For thousands of years. I believe 1,000? Was it thousands? The law was passed down orally from generation to generation. But after the second temple was destroyed, I could be wrong, but I believe it was after the second temple was destroyed, which is when the rabbis got together and was like, yo, we gotta write this shit down. The Prince of Israel's because I believe it's in the law that it's not supposed to be written down, but for the sake of preservation or power consolidation, that's also a thing. You kind of just gotta trust that there's not an abuse of power going on. It is a majority rule situation. I was saying in the other video, there's a mitzvah, or I don't know if it's called, I forget if it's called a Mishnah. I'm going to say Mishnah for now. If there's any Hebrew brothers or sisters watching, then I think they'll know what I'm talking about. It's one of the 5 pillars of the Talmud. The Mishnah is basically the written account of the law. And then there's the debates. I forget what those are called. Nah, I wish. Trust me, I'm as disappointed as you.
Have a good night, yo.
You too, bruh. But that's a move I would pull, by the way. And it usually works when I do it. But if you look at the Talmud, at least in its Hebrew form, there's the Mishnah. I think it's the Mishnah. I could be getting the names all butchered up, but the main documentation of the law is written in the middle, and then on the left and right sides there are the rabbinical debates over what exactly is being said, what exactly is meant by being said. So the main meat of it is the written translation. The sidebars are the debates over how exactly you interpret it. How do you exercise it? What the hell does it mean? What's it saying? What does it want us to do? Hebrew is, like we were kind of getting into in the very beginning of this, which was a continuation off of that last video, because I was getting more into it. It is said, when you look at it from a symbolic perspective, it's incredibly malleable. There's ideas and concepts that are presented, and yeah, there's the traditional way of looking at things, but then there's also the unconventional methodologies as well. And I say unconventional because my way of understanding it is based solely on intuition. And maybe that's the way that it's supposed to be done. Very well could be. But it's complex. I mean, it's a language of symbols. You need to understand symbols and how to synthesize symbols into bigger messages, bigger ideas, bigger concepts. Like piecing together, so one of the examples I was using in the other video was this word Keter. Keter. K-T-E-R, but pronounced K-E-T-R. The three Hebrew letters, they're symbols, aside from sounds. Yeah, they're sounds, and it translates to crown, but more than just like a physical crown that you wear on your head. It's also a crown of anointing. That makes sense? It's like making a covenant with God. Each letter has a symbol assigned to it, and when you synthesize the meanings of those symbols, it paints a picture. It like literally paints a picture. One letter, the first letter K, Kaf, symbolizes a head. The second letter, Tav, represents